This is not a test.
So it's been a little bit over 24 hours since the EMP hit. I'm going to continue trying to make these videos, charge the batteries up on my laptop and on the cameras from the batteries from the solar system. Don't have a whole lot of extra electricity, but enough to be able to do some small things. So I will videotape, try to pass this on, whether this is something that my team can learn from, family members can learn from, for operational security. I'm not gonna violate OPSEC. It's gonna, I'll show some things outside and some of the perimeter systems that we have. I may talk about them, but I'm not gonna give that out just in case this should happen to fall in the wrong hands. Also understand if you ever see this in the future that I don't have access to the internet anymore. So this is just gonna be stored on my laptop and maybe thumb drive. But any video clips added to this are going to be specifically from whatever I had left on my computer. Because without internet, I cannot reach this World Wide Web of stuff. So we'll cover water conservation and preparedness next. Hopefully you'll be able to see those as they come up. It's Navy Phil, second day after. Got a little bit of sleep and I'm checking on water situation, which is going to be the primary thing. I'll show you exactly what my sweetie had done overnight to be able to set things up in the bathroom, which is going to be the primary places where you're going to need to be able to try to salvage some water because you have your tubs. Now there's two things that you can do. First one is in your tub, you can purchase a container that actually hooks up and fills up inside the tub. That way that the water inside the tub, it may not have little hair or soap or anything like that. But I didn't have one of those, so I also turn around and on the drain, which is right here, got some Gorilla tape that is waterproof. Put it around it so that it wouldn't drain out. Fill the tub up as much as we could. When we started losing water pressure, turn the water off. Just due to the fact that once water pressure starts getting low, you can actually have the chance of something of water systems backing up, and you don't want to take water that is under low water pressure from your city and rely on that as being safe to be able to drink. Now you can continue filling your tubs and buckets and everything else up with it, but whenever you get completely done with it, you have to consider that as a secondary source, not potable water to be able to drink or bathe with. So, of course, in the bottom of the tub, you need to be able to put some kind of plug inside of it. And tip number one, if you are on city water, take food coloring and put a good bit of blue and red both down in the drain. That'll make a very dark purple, almost black. You start seeing blackness or whatever color food coloring you put in the drain. That's whenever you know that this water can only be used for like toilet drain and things like that. You can't drink it. If you're like me, if you're on a septic tank, then you don't have to worry so much about your drainage here. If you are on city sewage, then you definitely have to worry about your drain backing up there for your tubs. So you put the food coloring in. You have to worry about your drain backing up on your sinks. And if you look under here, let's see if I can get to it. Right over there is where the the sink drain goes through the wall. Now that's 1.5 inches. Some of the older houses might be 1.25 inches, but you need to get you some PVC glue and 1.5 inch cap so that you can cap those off. The drain is not designed to be a pressurized drain. It may hold 5 psi at the most before it ruptures. So don't come up there and think that it's going to be able to hold a lot of pressure. Disconnect all the plumbing under there. Put your 1.5 inch PVC glue sweat fitting on there. Glue it on, and then put a bucket up under there. If it should happen to leak or even develop a small crack, then it'll fill up into the bucket, and you have to check that on a regular basis. And your toilet, the water in the back of the toilet, it is usable, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's just years of mineral deposits inside there. That water is usable unless you put some of those blue tablets and stuff from the back side of it to be able to make your toilet water clear, that's whenever you don't drink that, because I can't promise you what's inside that and what that's going to affect you. I know it's got a high parts per million, that's for sure. As far as your drain goes to your toilet, you need to get I'm not sure if that looks like a 2 or 2.5 inch drain that would fill in there. Get a 2.5 inch plug, or measure it and figure out what it is, and get a hard cork plug or hard rubber plug and put it in there. If you don't have that, take a towel and just shove it in there as far as you can. One of the primary things that you should have already done is set aside water. Now these are in my basement, so I'm not worried about sunlight getting through these white containers. I got them for free. But each one of them have about 50 gallons inside of it. I got it dated whenever I added the little bit of chlorine to it. That's city water that had filled up, so it should have already been ready to go, but I wanted to have a little bit extra. A little bit extra chlorine flavor is not going to kill us. But put in containers so that you have water ready to go in some safe place. Use the blue buckets or black bucket, the blue containers, drums, or the black ones, so that sunlight doesn't get through it if you are not in some place where no sunlight can get to where you're at. So what I'm trying to do is explain the sewage treatment system in most big cities, so that you can understand a little bit better why the lower you are and on the lower floors you end up having more and more problems. So try to follow along, make comments if there's something you don't understand. We'll try to get over that. Okay? All right, so here's your treatment plant. Normally it's going to be on the lowest area in town, but many times there's places that, like a house might be lower than it or at the same height as far as above sea level. Those houses that are halfway up hills and mountains and the skyscrapers, and you could even have a skyscraper here, and the top level is not going to have any issues with sewage. But houses, skyscrapers, anything that puts your level well above the treatment plant is not going to be any kind of an issue. So as the people that are inside this high rise or in these houses that are well above the treatment plant area, once they come up and they have they flush their toilets, everything is going to, of course, gravity is going to pull everything downhill. So it's going to end up going into the sewage, which is going to flow this direction from all directions, and it'll end up coming down into the treatment plant. Now the places that are at the height or lower than the treatment plant, what happens whenever they flush their toilets is there will be a sump with a pump that will end up pumping it back up to the treatment plant. So once electricity stops, these pumps don't work. The treatment plant is not working. So all the sewage that comes out from here is going to go to this level, and it's going to consistently keep filling up and filling up. So you'll end up having sewage that will fill up all of the pipes, all the sewage lines, and this is not stormwater drain lines, this is sewage lines. And the treatment plant, everything will end up getting full more and more. So as you see, as all these people flush their toilets, run their sinks and their bathtubs, and everything gets flushed downhill, it'll end up filling these pipes up to the point where this guy on his first floor is going to have backups into his bathroom. And that's the reason why that I said in the part of the video that you need to work all of your you need to plug everything on the first floor down so that it's corked off, and everything that is above that is where you actually use. If you're going to be able to try to use your toilets, I suggest that at a certain point you stop using that, because all you're doing is just flooding sewage to your neighbors. If that matters to you, think about that. But it'll get to the point where once this treatment ends up getting completely full, this electricity's off, this house will have sewage trying to force its way backwards through all of its drain lines into its tubs, its toilets. Everything will end up getting flooded. So that'll end up working its way up, and depending on how flat your city is, if your whole city is flat like this and your treatment plant is here, then of course these are the houses that are going to end up having the issue and problems. So let me clean this up a little bit and I'll give you the other end of the spectrum of the problem with water. If your water supply is from a well at your house, then the electricity to that pump is probably going to be off after an EMP unless you have backup. If you do, great, then you have a water supply there. If you do not, then you're going to have to use a rope and bucket in order to be able to get water supply to your house, just the old-fashioned way. But if you're in a city, it's going to be much like this. If this is the hill or the elevation inside the town, whether you live in an apartment complex that's on the top of a hill or an apartment complex that is down here, same thing. Every foot of height that you have makes it more difficult for this water tower to actually be able to get water to you. So how the water tower works is water is pumped from pumping station at the bottom of the tower, gets put up to the top of the tower, and let's say that the tower is 100 feet tall. At 100 feet, you have a little bit over, I think it's 43 PSI that will end up being developed with 100-foot head pressure down here at the bottom. So for it to be able to pump up into each one of these houses, it's going to lose per house as each valve is opened up for tub water, everything else that people are asking for. That's the reason why you'll probably have a second water tower that's going to be over here doing the exact same thing for this part of town that's up on the hill. So the problem is that if the electricity is off here and here, then the only head pressure that you're going to end up having is what is inside the water tower itself. So if we have the same thing, if this is the same water tower, if it's 100 foot from here down to the bottom of it, you have 43 pounds of PSI supplied inside of it, then it will continue to supply water to this apartment complex and to this house until this water level ends up dropping down to the bottom, and then there's nothing, including the pipes, there's no water pressure. So once this height here equals this height here, then there is no water pressure going to be coming to the top of the building. Now the bottom of the building will still continue having some pressure because it may be 50 foot or something from the top of the building to the bottom of the building, or several hundred feet. Either way, the people at the top are going to run out of water first. And then it's the same way inside of houses, that the top level of the house will end up losing water pressure before the bottom does. And the people at the bottom, where they have the disadvantage when it came to sewage, they have the advantage whenever it comes to water. Because when everybody else is completely out of pressure all above this line here, because this tank is empty and this tank is what's supplying the city, it will not work its way uphill. It will end up supplying water to these houses down here until it completely runs out of water, that makes this house and this apartment complex, especially the bottom floor, being the last ones to run out of water supplied from the city. So that's the basics behind exactly what goes on for the supply in most small towns and cities. And that's that. We'll get to the next part of the video later because I got to turn these lights off. It's eating up my batteries. Hopefully that gave you some information on water and sewage to be benefit to whoever it is that finds the video, or to my team if something should happen and they need to bug out, leave, whatever. We'll continue on with these educational videos from my team and for posterity. So, Navy Phil, signing out. See you next video.